Okay, let's jump right into this one. So there's a big notion today that you need to follow your passion in order to be happy, especially if you're going to try to make a career out of something. It should be something that you're passionate about. We've all heard this. We've heard the statistics of 75%, 80%, 90%, depending on the statistics that you've read, where people at the end of their life, looking back, one of the biggest things that they regret not doing is following their passion. Be it the hobby that they work on, the art, whatever it is on the side that they do, whatever case it is, they didn't make it a career. They didn't put enough time and energy into it when they were younger and able. And now they regret it at the end of their life, wishing that they spent more time doing that than spending more time, say, chasing money, right? Or, continuing the rat race. And this is all relatively true, but if you think about, at the end of your life, and you don't know when that's going to come, but assuming and in good blessings that we all have long lives, we don't want to look back and think, well, I didn't spend any time on my passion. I spent too much time worrying, right? I spent too much time worrying about making more money because the cost of everything keeps going up, inflation, right? I spent more time worrying about putting time into taking care of other people, which is also a good thing. But you also need to take care of yourself too, and you need to make sure that you scratch that passion itch. But here's the caveat. When people are telling you to do this, they're assuming you already know what your passion is. Right? They're assuming that you sit down, you think up a concept, something you might be interested based off of something that you see, probably on social media or on TV, and you decide that's the one thing that I want to do. It does not work like that. Passion comes from years of trial and error, years of tribulation, and actually working through problems and finding what it is that makes you tick. It's not just a simple, I'm going to pick up a guitar, I'm passionate about guitar, let's become a professional guitarist. Right? For me to find music in the beginning, I wanted to play outside with my friends and do sports. I wanted to play video games. But when I was really young, my mother started me in piano lessons. And at the time, I absolutely hated it. I hated the structure of going to lessons, probably more than anything at the time, being a kid. And I didn't like trying to learn something that didn't come exceptionally easy right off the bat. Now, with my mother being a pianist as well, it was easier than some because I had some extra help at home. But I still didn't enjoy making classical music, right? And that's predominantly what we were trained on when we were really young, okay? But that got a spark going. And by the time I hit middle school, I realized that I wanted to play guitar, okay? And the musical journey that I went on with piano for 4 years before that, I was able to translate into guitar, and then guess what? Guitar was very easy for me to pick up the basics because of that background in piano. Now, if I didn't do piano, or I didn't even take a stab at guitar, I still wouldn't even know if I was passionate about music at this point. And then fast forward decades later, and I'm constantly writing songs, constantly recording songs, constantly playing covers, and building up 2 different YouTube channels based around music, and I'm enjoying pretty much every second of it. Obviously, there's administration tasks and video editing and all that, jazz that you don't really want to have to put your time into, but must. So obviously, I don't love those pieces of it, but I love the fact that I'm working and making music every day. And that's all because I started with piano. Now, I started with a bunch of other things as well. I grew up in a household where we didn't have a crazy amount of finances, but we had some opportunities that I appreciated as a kid that I know not everybody gets. So I want to at least point out, the opportunities that you have available to you. You want to make sure that you exploit as much of them as possible, especially in the beginning. And it doesn't matter how old you are, right? Obviously, it's easier for a kid to learn new things and pick up new things because they're just a sponge. They don't have all the responsibilities that older folks have, right? Families and financial responsibilities and paying for bills. And they can go around and try all these things. They have crazy amounts of energy, at least my kids do. Probably more than I remember when I was that age. But what you want to do, and pretend that you're a kid, All right, don't throw your responsibilities out the window. I'm not saying that. But pretend that you're somebody that the entire world is a brand new concept with all these possibilities. And you're not listening to social media. You're not listening to, let's say, even your own family if they're not supportive of the things that you might be interested in. Right? You're not listening to anybody else but you. Right? And then you start going out there and trying different things. I remember the first time I went rock climbing. Right? Indoor rock climbing. I was like, what is this? We're not even climbing real rocks. Right? And then as soon as I did that first day in the gym, my wife, girlfriend at the time, and I signed up for our rock climbing memberships to the local gym. I went 4 days a week for the next 6 years. That amount of time got me in some of the best shape of my life, and I was also able to build on so many other physical skills that I wouldn't have gotten elsewhere, that I didn't even know existed. But because I had tried that first day, even against my own internal thoughts, I was able to pick up a new hobby that became a passion. Now that I'm going to keep as a hobby, right? I don't want to put in all the time and dedication into being one of the best rock climbers in the world, but I do enjoy the occasional trip to go and try to climb some local mountain or to go to a local gym and even take my kids and start introducing them to the sport. But I wouldn't have even known if I didn't even try. And this is what I implore you to do. What is it that you're interested in? I'm not going to say passionate about, because you can't find your passion until you try it. Right? It comes back to what I was saying in the beginning. We have all these concepts of, all these people know their passions. Well, what's my passion? And a lot of the advice that people give is, well, look at your why. Right? Look deep down inside and why you want to pursue something. But the why helps you to understand why you want to achieve certain goals, but it still might not drive you to find your passion. Okay, for example, why do you want more money? If you actually calculate the cost out of the things that you want to obtain with money, a house, financial freedom, more vacation time with your family, all of those things, obviously on top of all of the necessities that you are hoping to at least be able to afford as a minimum, right? Those whys are very powerful. But then if you go beyond that and you act like a kid and you go out and you try different things, you'll start to realize that certain ways that you approach new things, whether it's piano lessons, guitar lessons, or rock climbing, certain ways that you approach those things, you start realizing it gets hard, right? You're beyond the fast and easy phase. Now, the fast and easy phase will make you attracted to anything, and that gets the wheels turning. But when it comes to the first or second obstacle in your learning experience around whatever it is, then you start to hit roadblocks that you don't know if this is for you. All right, this is starting to feel too hard, and you don't really feel like you want to put the effort and time into getting over those hurdles. All right, that's one of the first places that you'll see that maybe you're not passionate about that. But that's okay, because there's an entire plethora of other things that you can try. Now, the biggest thing to keep in mind with this is you don't want to quit too early. Right? Just because, throwing or catching a ball when you're a kid is difficult doesn't mean you should give up on sports altogether. Right? Because that's an essential skill in the beginning when you're playing with friends or when you're playing organized sports, where if you get the basics down, right, the relatively easy stuff, even though it might not seem like it in the beginning, then you can actually give it a real shot. Okay, if I picked up a guitar and pressing the strings on, in between the frets or making a chord seemed extremely difficult. If I just gave up then and there, that's too soon. I wouldn't even know if guitar was my passion, right? That's the first initial roadblock that you kind of have to work your way around. Now, when it comes to that, then where did we go? I started working I had a music teacher that helped me go through the lessons, and they advanced as we went along, but then he also really emphasized me finding music that I was interested in that he could show me how to play. That's where a passion lied. My passion for other music helped me bring it to learning to play my own. Okay, so as I was listening to new music, I would bring it to my guitar teacher and he would show me how to play it. And if it was too complex for the beginner that I was at the time, he would dumb it down and bring it into some kind of easy chords to play, or just to play the root notes or different melodic lines on the guitar at a slow and easy pace. Right? I wasn't shredding like Metallica or Megadeth in the beginning, but that's where you start. And as you get through those hurdles, then you start to get into more complicated problems. Okay, so from there, it's like, well, I want to write my own songs. I think I want to write my own songs anyway. How do you even do that? Right? I just learned how to play this instrument. How do I even go from learning how to play it to sounding like the people that I listen to on the radio or on the CD that I have at home? Right? At least back in the time when we had CDs. So all of these things will help you to find your passion. So when somebody tells you, oh, you're fed up with your 9 to 5, you don't like your boss, you don't like the industry that you're in, you don't even know why you ended up there, even though you spent 12 years in college, all these different things, getting all these degrees. All right, the first step you need to take is back. Think about things that are of interest to you and write it down. Write it down right now. Give me 10, 20 things. Make a long list, right? This is your initial list. This is not supposed to be that number one thing you're going to go after. Make this list. Let's say 10. Okay, we'll do something reasonable. Make a list of 10 things that you're interested in that you could see. If you want to make it a career, try to see how you could possibly make it a career. And the best way to do that is your friend Google. Right? So if you like guitar, give me all the ways to make money playing guitar. Right? Check it on Google. See what you need to know. Because I guarantee you it's a lot less than you think it is. I guarantee you picking up this new thing is a lot easier than you think it is. Now, becoming exceptionally good at it, being in the top 1%, that's difficult. I don't think there's anything that I've put my efforts into that I come anywhere close to the top 1%. Right? But I keep getting better as I go, and I keep honing in on the things that I still feel passionate about. And as I am trying to make music a career of mine, I'm getting better at the directions and the opportunities that are out there that I can use to make it a career. Okay, I talked in one of my previous videos about how gigging and selling CDs aren't the only ways to make music. And the only way I found that out was because I found an initial passion for playing an instrument, found a passion for writing music, and then I went onto Google and YouTube and all these other places where we go to learn, and I found all these ways that you could make an income writing music. And when I found that there were 50 plus ways versus the 2 primary ways that I grew up thinking that was the only way to make music, right? Getting a record deal, going and playing live shows, which means time away from family and friends and everything that you have back at home. And then CD sales, which is very difficult when you don't have a gigantic audience, right? So you need that record deal. When you become dependent upon that, it seems nearly impossible. But when you think about what we have today, where we have Google, social media, YouTube, which is one of my favorite outlets to get any kind of expressive, creative endeavors out there. When you have those things, and then you see that, instead of these 2 extremely difficult areas to work my way into, these 2 barriers that have high barriers to entry, I have these 10 or these 20 ways that I can make a little bit of money here, a little bit of money here. And all of a sudden I start to see, okay, this might actually pay the bills. So if you want to make your passion your career, then this is a great way to approach that. But even if you're not making it your career, right, there's still ways to follow your passion. You can work your day job, right, and make enough to pay the bills. And then you could spend your free time with your friends, your family, whatever the case is, but also working to a passion project. So it doesn't even have to be a career. So you can work your day job and then use the time that you have after, obviously, your other responsibilities, like your family and all of that. You can use what little hours you have left and dedicate it to some passion. Right? It could be a fitness passion. I'm not just talking about going to the gym, but becoming part of a community where you are involved in competitions and you're involved in making each other better. Maybe you're training other people, helping them to achieve their fitness goals, right? So the sky is the limit. So I don't think those people on their deathbeds were necessarily regretting having full-time jobs and stable incomes, the ones that were, right? It's more so that with that, They didn't make time for the things that were valuable to them. And the best way to understand what your priorities are is to think about what you're putting your time into. So if you want to find your passion, you have to actually put the time into finding your passion. It's kind of like finding a job, right? You have to go through a process. You have to get this broad area that your qualifications might fall under. You start researching titles and positions and things you might be interested in. You start going through some preliminary informational interviews. You start learning about the job. You might go on Google and search more about the job or watch YouTube videos about the job. All of this, and then you start honing in, applying. You continue to apply because usually the first time you go might not be that one time where you get the job on the spot, but it's this whole process. So just like finding a job is a job in and of itself, finding a passion is also a job in and of itself. So you can't just sit down, scribble on a piece of paper a few things you might be interested in. It's good to write down what you're thinking. Do that every single day. But when you do that, have a goal in mind, right? When you're thinking, okay, I might be interested in these 10 things, have a goal where you can try those things. And I mean, really try them. Get past the initial easy steps, get past the first couple hurdles that you come across along the way, and then see, is this still something that even when you're tired, you might want to drive and fulfill and move forward. Okay, so I wanted to bring up this video in particular because there's a common misconception where, in order to be happy, we have to follow our passion, but to follow our passion, we have to quit our jobs and then pick something, randomly that we might be interested in. That must be our passion, so we're going to make that our career. This is sloppy. This is backwards. Try different things, and as you go, you will find what it is you're truly passionate about. And unsurprisingly, this is exactly what we did as kids. This is exactly how we figured out what we wanted to spend our time doing in our free time as kids, the endless amounts of free time that we had. It's also how we figured out who we wanted to spend more time with. Okay, even to this day. You do it naturally. So there's no necessity to force it. And I know it feels like you want to force a passion to make it your career, because you're so unhappy with where you might be today. But don't rush it. Try things out. Really hone in. Find the skills. And, if there's a level of problem solving as you're going through the process, there's nothing better. There's not a better feeling, when it comes to working towards something than solving problems as you go. So if what you're trying has the types of problems that you like to solve, and you want to solve more of them, even if you're exhausted, even if you should be going to bed, you just want to continue doing it, kind of like a great Netflix show where you're on episode 2, but you end up finishing the entire series that night, then you're onto something. Okay? So if you have any questions, or if you even want to tell me what it is you're thinking about trying, put the list in the comments below. I'd love to read what everyone's interested in. I can tell you right now, I'm honing in on songwriting, in particular in rock and pop genres, and I'm also honing in on educating others on how to produce, mix, and record their own music. So I'll follow those two passions as I'm doing today, and I'd love to see what you have to write below. Let's have a conversation going. I'll talk with you real soon.